Good morning, everybody. This is Parsai from downtown Toronto. We are getting our first snow today of 20 of the fall of 2021. And let me introduce myself while our friends are joining us. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant with almost 11 years of experience as an immigration consultant. I've had clients from almost 55 countries so far, and I'm the author of 88 tips on immigration to Canada. It has been identified by Amazon.ca as the bestseller under the immigration law. And also, I teach immigration at Ashton College, and I've been recently appointed as an adjunct professor at Queen's University, Faculty of Law. But my main job, despite holding a master's degree in law, another master's degree, and teaching experience, my main job is actually practicing as an immigration consultant. As I mentioned, I have helped thousands of people from almost 55 countries to immigrate to Canada, get their visas, work permits, apply for visitors' visas, ETAs, you name it. I've done it with admissibility issues. Right now, what I'm going today is that I'm going to review what's the latest news on in the world of immigration to Canada. And then after that, if you have any questions, you can post your questions on the chat box and I will answer them. You don't need to repeat yourself. You can just post your questions as soon as you want and then wait. And when I'm done with the news, I will answer the questions. And also, after answering questions, we'll get back and I have written an article. I will try to explain that article as well. We have about 1 hour, so hopefully we'll manage to make this happen. Okay, so let's begin with the news. So something that you need to know is that under the express entry system, IRCC has to invite three groups of immigrants to apply. Express entry is an online processing system. It's not an immigration option, but it covers three immigration options. Federal skilled trades are people like plumbers, welders, etc., that they are in fact somehow eligible to immigrate to Canada. For example, they have a license from a province or job offer from one or two employers in Canada. The other option for immigration under express entry is federal skilled worker program. These are highly skilled people, like because of their education, knowledge of English or French languages, and their work experience and their relationship in Canada, that they can immigrate to Canada. Most of federal skilled worker applicants live outside Canada. And the third group are Canadian experience class applicants. They are people that in the past 3 years, they have worked in Canada for at least 1 year, but their work needs to be a NOC 0A or B job. It means a job that is either managerial or a job that you usually need a post-secondary education to do that job. So these are what are going on with express entry. Now, the government of Canada actively invited people under express entry up until 2020. Then, unfortunately, coronavirus happened and they slowed down. Initially, they stopped even inviting a federal skilled worker altogether. Then they resumed it. And then we had a backlog on express entry system to the point that the last draw that they made for federal skilled workers was only in December 2020. It was December 20th or 23rd of 2020. And they stopped inviting federal skilled worker, partly because they said these people are outside Canada, our visa posts outside Canada are not working, so they stopped inviting them. And then they suddenly invited 28,000 people under a Canadian experience class in February 2021. Everybody got excited. The CRS score dropped to 75. But guess what? They slowed down on Canadian experience class as well, to the point that on September 14th, 2021 was the last time that they did a draw on Canadian experience class. And the same thing with federal skilled trades. They haven't been inviting federal skilled trades since December 23rd, 2020. Sorry. So it's been almost a year now. And the issue is that people asked whether the government wants to continue inviting federal skilled workers and federal skilled trade. What will happen to the express entry system? CIC News got in touch with the immigration authorities, and according to them, they said that the reason that they have stopped invitations is because of the backlogs they have. They want to make sure they will reduce the backlogs, and then they will, for people who received ITS, but they will eventually restart inviting people. That's partially good news because it shows that they don't want to, at least based on what CIC News says, they don't want to actually stop the invitations for federal skilled worker. It's just a temporary stall. Of course, keep that in mind that if you are in the pool of express entry and one of the provinces selects you, then you could receive up to 600 points and they could still invite you. Government is still inviting people under PNP express entry, but you need an invitation from a province to qualify for that. And good luck with that, because if you look at the current statistics, we have 190,102 people waiting to be in the pool of express entry. Out of those people, around 48,600 of them, they have at least 451 points. So the competition is really fierce under express entry system. What will happen to that? We need to wait and see. So if you have any questions, please post your questions there. When I'm done with the news, I will definitely get back to you and I will share the news, answer your questions. So that's something that you need to know. So it looks like it, that they are going to invite federal skilled working eventually, but when they were going to do it, we don't know. The other thing that you need to know is that Saskatchewan now has announced a new pilot program for international workers. So this week, the government of Saskatchewan announced a new pilot under the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. The Hard to Fill Skills pilot will help Saskatchewan employers to hire workers through international recruitment activities into select jobs. According to the government of Saskatchewan, the eligible jobs under this pilot will allow for applications of low and entry level positions. Moreover, the select jobs may require on the job training. And of course, they will target sectors with the highest labor demand. And who will be eligible? To be eligible, you have a full time permanent offer of employment from, of course, a Saskatchewan employer and SINP job approval letter. In addition, this offer must be for an eligible occupation from a registered Saskatchewan employer. Two, you need to meet a minimum Canadian official language proficiency level and meet the minimum educational and work experience. If you need more information, I will post I think I've posted the link below this video already, but I will also post this here. That's exciting news for those people who want to move to the province of Saskatchewan. Keep that in mind. For those of you who know where Saskatchewan is in the middle of Canada. So it's between the province of Alberta and province of Manitoba. In terms of population, the population of Saskatchewan is about 1.1 million, but the area of Saskatchewan is almost twice as much as Germany. It is full of resources. For example, it's about, I think, 30% of the potash in the world is being produced by Saskatchewan. About 10% of the export wheat in the world is being produced by Saskatchewan. They make more than $1 billion in just producing beef. And so on and so forth. I can continue. They have uranium and other resources. They produce about 400,000 barrels of oil per day. And it's a resourceful province. Of course, it's very cold and sometimes dry. It's in the prairies, so you don't see many trees, but you see a lot of beautiful fields. And the main city of this, or the center of this province, or capital of this province, is Regina, and the largest city is Saskatoon. If you're interested in immigration to that province, it's not a bad idea if you take a look at this article and read it. But if you have association with other provinces, it is likely that Saskatchewan will not approve you. An example would be if you have a close family in other provinces, or you're already living in another province, then that's not a good sign for you to get approved by the province of Saskatchewan. The other good news is that if you're on a study permit and you're studying in Canada, in order to qualify or maintain your study permit, at least 50% of your studies must be in person. And this is the requirement by the immigration authorities. However, because of the situation of COVID 19, IRCC decided that they are not going to penalize people for doing their courses online. So they have recently said that they extended the time students can finish their program online from outside Canada and have it count towards their postgraduate work permit. So according to the government website, students can count the online time from March 2020 to August 31st, 2022. Moreover, they can complete up to 100% of your studies online and be eligible for postgraduate work permit. So this is great news. Again, this is just for people who already have started studying in Canada. Because of the COVID 19 situation, they have not been able to travel to Canada and remain in Canada, and they had to do their studies online. Despite doing part of their studies 100% online, when they come back to Canada and eventually finish their studies, the time that they spent studying online, it will be counted towards their postgraduate work permit, which is great news. You can click this link that I posted on chat box. I will also post the link below this video. You can click it and read about that portion and see if you could qualify. If you are not familiar with postgraduate work permit, I have an article about postgraduate work permit. If you visit this article, there is a link to that. You can read about it and understand what's going on in this world. Provinces, despite that, the government of Canada is very slow in, accepting new applications for immigration. Provinces are active. Of course, when I say they are not, I mean, for now, the number of my clients that they become permanent residents are very limited, probably one or two clients per week, which is very odd for me. Usually, I had a lot more people interacting with the immigration authorities, and that's partly because there's a huge backlog. They are not processing applications. For example, I have clients from India that they initiated a sponsorship application in August 2019. So it's more than 2 years, and the government has not processed their application, despite that my client did uh, his medical exam twice. So with the federal government, everything is slow. But when it comes to provinces, they are fully active. And I just want to share with you some of the data that we have about the latest activities by the provinces of Canada. So this is one of them. So British Columbia on November 23rd, British Columbia held two draws through its provincial nominee program. The time the province invited 357 people from the skills immigration and express entry. So we had on November 23rd, actually, British Columbia invited 258 people. Excuse me. And on November 9th, 99 people. Also, Prince Edward Island was active in terms of inviting immigrants. On November 18th, the province of Prince Edward Island declared the third biggest draw of the year. The province invited a total of 188 immigration candidates. So far, this province invited 1,729 candidates in 2021. Moreover, the next PI-PNP draw is expected to be December 16th, 2021. And if you want to know who were invited, so we have some statistics under the business work permit entrepreneur invitations, 16 people, and the minimum points threshold for business invitations were 67. Under the labor and express entry invitations, 172 people, and in total, the invitations were 188. The province of Alberta. And so, for those of you who don't know where Prince Edward Island is, it's the smallest province in Canada. It's in the Atlantic area or maritime area of Canada. It's somewhere between Newfoundland and Labrador on the north, and also Nova Scotia on the south. And Alberta is between Saskatchewan and British Columbia. The Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, or AINP, reported this week the details of its last draw on November 9th, 2021. On that date, Alberta invited 200 express entry candidates with scores of at least 343 to apply for a provincial nomination, which is great. So again, some of the people who were in the pool of express entry, or to be more exact, 200 of them, they were invited by the province of Alberta. And then the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, the this province, okay, I have to explain a little bit more. So, Newfoundland and Labrador Provincial Nominee Program, or NLPNP, revealed details of three 2021 draws through the Priority Skills Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador stream. So far this year, the NLPNP invited a grand total of 663 candidates to apply for a provincial nomination, and we could see what are those. So in June 2021, they invited 381 people. In September, they invited 22 people. And the last draw that they had was October 2021, and they invited 260 people. If you want to see, again, this statistics, I just post them here, and you can read them. Just post your questions over there. If they are generic questions, I will be more than happy to answer them. If they are specific, I will invite you to book an appointment with me, but I will definitely answer all the questions. You don't need to repeat them. So there's one more thing, and then after that thing, we can actually move on to the questions. And then if we have more time, which I hope we have, I will talk about the difference between permit and visa, because I see that many people get confused about that. So, skilled trades immigration, if you look at it, a new report released on November 24th, 2021, goes deep into the labor market outcomes of economic immigrants in the skilled trades. The analysis focuses on the applicants in 5 economic streams: Federal Skilled Worker Program, the PNP, the CEC. PNP is a provincial nominee program, CEC is Canadian Experience Class, and FSTC or FSTP is Federal Skilled Trades Program, and skilled workers admitted through the Quebec selection stream. And if you look at it, it's quite interesting. I don't have this, I cannot show you the picture here, but you can visit our website. That's the link, and see the graph that it shows that how the government has moved away from the federal skilled worker program, to the point that you see that in year 2000, Federal skilled workers dominate the number of immigrants to Canada. Most of them are between these five programs that I mentioned are federal skilled workers. Of course, the Canadian Experience Class at that time didn't exist. Federal skilled trades program didn't exist anyways. But then later, when we move forward, we see that most of our immigrants under the skilled programs, they are not federal skilled workers. So this federal skilled worker program is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And then I don't want to go into the details of that. You can visit our website and read the article. Okay, so let me go back to the questions. I will answer the questions. When we are done with the questions, if we have time, I will talk about other stuff. Okay, so the first question is from Chabi Vlogs. So how many days take time resubmission after September 7th? Okay, so I assume that you're talking about temporary resident visas because on September 7th, they mentioned that if you have already submitted your TRV application and you haven't received a response, it's a good idea if you resubmit it. They initially, when we resubmitted the applications in the first couple of weeks, whatever we resubmitted, they received their TRVs. I could tell you anywhere between 7 days to 14 days. That's how quick it was. And it was amazing. Initially, it was fantastic. And the good news for me was that actually those applications that we submitted right after September 7th, all of them, they received their temporary resident visas, which is very rare because, as you know, in temporary resident visa applications, refusal is quite common. But for that group, it didn't happen. Then we continued resubmitting or submitting applications after that. And guess what? Still, some of those applications are still waiting for processing. And we don't know what would be the processing time because this is the first time we're submitting after September 7th. But if you have submitted your application anytime in October or November, there's a chance that you still will face delays in processing time. Unfortunately, that's the case. How long? We don't know. It depends on your nationality. It depends which visa office it ends up to be processed. And nobody can give you a clear-cut answer. So Irfan Bhat says, Sir, good morning. I'm a resident of Pakistan and my wife is Canadian citizen, but is government welfare support. That's why she can support me. I want to process your case in some other way. Yeah, so if you are correct, if a sponsor is in the receipt of social welfare, then unfortunately they cannot sponsor their spouse because they don't meet the requirements. There are some options, of course. One of them is if they cut their social welfare and start gaining income. The other thing is that if the welfare that they are receiving is because of, for example, disability, then that doesn't matter. Disability, like for example in Ontario, if they are receiving ODSP, that doesn't count towards ineligibility. But if there are none of those, then probably the only way that we can think of is humanitarian reasons. But honestly, I cannot give you a clear-cut answer. I need to look into the case and see what kind of arrangements we can make to convince the immigration authorities to approve your application. And for that, you could book an appointment with me and we go from there. I charge $200 for half an hour of appointment, but I can give you a special offer and everybody who is currently online. I just post the link here. So if you click this link that I just posted on the chat box, and I won't post it anywhere else, it's just in this chat box. So if you click it right now, you will see it. If you don't click it after we're done with this live session, you won't be able to see it. But instead of $200, you can pay $160. That's 20% discount. But I need to look into the case. I cannot give you immigration advice just based on the information you have mentioned here. So Mr. Wells says, what's happened if you're in a spousal open work permit C42 and your spouse is on medical school leave with a visitor record to resume school in January 2022? So the general rule of thumb for C42 says that you need to be actively studying in Canada. Otherwise, they won't issue the work permit. Having said that, and for those of you who don't know what C42 is that if an international student is studying in Canada, then the spouse or common law partner of that international student could apply for a work permit. That's an open work permit, which allows that spouse to work full time in Canada for any employer. Now, whether they will approve the case or not approve the case, if the student is on leave, I mean, based on the regulations, or not regulations, based on the guidelines given to the officers, the expectation is that the student is actively studying in Canada. However, it could be justified because at the end of the day, and on many occasions, we submit the application simultaneously, and when we apply for both of them, at that moment, the international student is not really studying in Canada. What we say to them is that the intention is to study in Canada, and then they decide whether to issue the work permit or not. In terms of this situation that somebody is on leave, I don't know about the specifics, so I cannot give you immigration advice. But generally speaking, it's better to wait and then or make the application, make the case that after January the spouse will join. And does the person under the spousal open work permit need to be under visitor record as well? So that's a very good question, and it's actually a good segue to the discussion that I have after the answering the question. So hold on to that. When I explain the difference between permit and visas, you will understand that. But generally speaking, because your case is specific for something else, generally speaking, when somebody holds a work permit, if it's a valid work permit, if it's a valid study permit, that they don't need a valid visitor record on top of that. Such thing is not necessary. Okay, so Kartik says, my friend is in Canada on study permit. He got his father date of birth wrong by 4 days in his study permit application. Now he wants to apply for visit visa for his father. Will there be any more major problems? So obviously, I don't know. I'm not the immigration authorities. I cannot tell you whether they will put them in trouble or not. Generally speaking, again, I don't know about the specifics of your friend's case, but generally speaking, a deviation of 4 days or a mistake in the parents' date of birth shouldn't cause a problem. Why on earth an officer should care if you made such a mistake? The only thing is that I will personally explain it. So the next time that I submit my application, in my application, I write a separate letter. And on that letter, I explain that last time when I was filling out the form by mistake, I made a mistake and I didn't properly enter my father's date of birth. This is the correct date of birth for my father. But I would say in 99.9% of the cases, that's not an issue. Remember that misrepresentation is hiding or falsifying material fact. And material fact is something that will affects the decision making of the officer. So if you shift a person's date of birth, a person's father's date of birth by 4 days, and that 4 day shift for some reason makes a difference in the decision making of the officer, that's misrepresentation. But if that mistake is irrelevant to the processing of application, then it's not. Look, one of the things that I always say is that when you fill out a form, if you give a form, an immigration form to me, and ask me with almost 11 years of experience as an independent immigration consultant, and I'm quite familiar with all these forms. If you give me one of those forms and ask me to fill it out, there is a chance that I make a mistake on the form. So that's why I always say the reason that people need to hire our firm is because we do it in layers. So we don't trust your coordinator to fill out your forms. We don't trust you to fill out the forms. So this is how we do it. You fill out the form, your coordinator will review the form and make corrections and ask you questions. Then they will send it back to you. You review them, and it sometimes goes back and forth between you and your coordinator 3 or 4 times. And when you are happy, when your coordinator is happy, then our internal manager will review the forms to make sure that everything is in place from a different angle. And then when our internal manager is okay with it, then the whole package comes to me and I take a look at the package. So because we have multiple layers of reviewing the forms and applications, the chances of making mistakes are very slim, especially making mistakes in terms of material facts, almost non-existent, because we eventually know, unless my client deliberately hides information from me, we will just clear anything that could jeopardize the application in terms of misrepresentation. We make sure that our client is truthful, have provided proper information, and the information is presented in such a way that is the most appealing way possible. So it's important that you just don't trust yourself as one person when you are filling out the forms. One of the reasons that you hire an immigration consultant is just to add another set of eyes to look at your application and make corrections for you. It's not just the law that we incorporate, it's also our experience and, of course, the keen eye that we have for mistakes on those forms. But at the end of the day, a 4-day difference in the year of birth of an applicant, will that applicant's father, will that make a huge difference? It's very unlikely. And so, Mr. Will, I don't know whether you're an immigration consultant or you are just curious about everything under immigration, but I think it's better if you book an appointment with me. And I will more than happy to answer all your questions, because the questions that you ask are very specific, and I think it's better if you book an appointment with me. I have mentorship packages for immigration consultants and immigration lawyers. Uh, I can actually share the link with you. So I have several mentees that they book mentorship sessions with me. We'll review the cases with them, and I answer their questions. That's much better, because in those sessions we can actually take a look at the document, discuss the circumstances of the person, and of course, if we have the consent of that person, even my mentee can share the information of that person with me, and eventually we'll go through the everything and we finalize everything. That's more professional. Okay, so the next question is from Vili or Vili Paduva. How I could sponsor my parents? They need my help, and I have to be yeah. So the answer to your question is that the parental sponsorship program in Canada is a huge mess, because there are lots of people who want to sponsor their parents to Canada, and at the same time, there has always been a huge negative connotation to that, because people say the parents of immigrants come to Canada, and the very first thing they do, they use our universal healthcare system without any prior contributions to our universal healthcare system. That's why the government had to put a cap on this. Initially, the cap was 5,000 applicants per year. Then they increased that to 20,000 applicants per year. Last year, they didn't invite anybody, but this year they invited 40,000 under this program, and that is over. So in year 2022, they will start again accepting requests from people. And if you submit that request, you will enter a pool, and they will do a draw, and then they pick 20,000, most likely 20,000 people from that pool, and again they invite them to apply for their parents. So this is what is going on with the parental sponsorship program. Having said that, there are alternatives. Obviously, if you're sponsoring your parents, you need to meet the minimum necessary income. You need to, for example, be able to provide. Be a Canadian citizen, be a permanent resident of Canada, meet all the requirements under Section 130 and especially 133 and 131 of the regulation. So these are the sections that they focus on matters like your age, your status in Canada, whether you have any troubles with the law, etc. So I have an article that I have explained this in details, so I just shared this link here, and if I don't forget, I will post it underneath this video as well for future use. But keep that in mind that at the end of the day, you need to meet the requirements. Now, imagine that you meet the requirements, but you are not selected to sponsor your parents. Are there alternatives? Yes, there are alternatives. In under special circumstances, sometimes you can sponsor them, not necessarily sponsor them, but they could immigrate to Canada under the humanitarian and compassionate considerations. But generally speaking, they have to be inside Canada, so you can apply for them. If you are interested to know more about this, I need to see if you qualify for humanitarian and compassionate considerations. I need to evaluate you. If you like, you can book an appointment with me. I will review your case and will tell you whether this is a option or not. So I got my stamped passport after 1 month wait. I will finally be in Canada next month. Oh, that's great, Kartik. Congratulations. Okay, so Mr. Will says I'm your customer only. Okay, so if you're my customer, just get in touch with me directly and I'd be more than happy to answer all your questions, okay? Because this is a public forum. Okay, so I want to also talk about something important, and that important part is it's basically about something that I recently wrote, the difference between permit and visa. So my question was, because some people make this mistake, can you travel back to Canada if you hold a valid permit? So I will post the link to this here. And you can click on the link and read it. But just keep that in mind. If you want to travel to Canada, you need a visa. And by a visa means a sticker that they attach in your passport. And then with the help of that sticker, the airline will allow you to board the plane. And then when you reach Canada at the port of entry, the officer knows that why you are entering Canada. We have exceptions to requirements for a TRV, and the exception is that if you are from a visa exempt country, if you are from a visa exempt country, you only need an ETA, electronic travel authorization, which is security clearance for people who want to immigrate to move to Canada, and then they can use that ETA to travel to Canada. It's not an actual visa, it's just a number that they attach to your passport. It's valid for up to 5 years or up to the validity of your passport, whichever comes first, and then you can travel to Canada. We have some exceptions to that. The ETA requirement is for people who are visa exempt and they are traveling by air. So if they are traveling, for example, through land borders between Canada and the United States, they don't really need ETA. Having said that, I always recommend it because it's security clearance. And the third group, of course, are US citizens. The US citizens do not need an ETA to travel to Canada. So that's only for traveling to Canada. So for traveling to Canada, unless you are visa exempt, you need a TRV or temporary resident visa. It is in the form of a counterfoil or a sticker in your passport. Okay, that's for traveling. If you don't have it or if it's not valid, then you cannot travel to Canada, unless, as I mentioned, you are visa exempt. Now, in the case of permits, when you enter Canada, you only can remain in Canada with a permit. So for remaining in Canada, for staying in Canada, you need a permit. So the visa that you use, the visa sticker that you use, is not for staying in Canada. And that's the mistake people make. For example, they say, I have a multiple entry visa that will expire a month from now. So what will happen if I come to Canada today? I can only stay in Canada for 1 month. The answer is no, because that visa is only for traveling to Canada. So it means that until the next month, you may travel to Canada. But how long you can stay in Canada, it depends on the permit that you receive. Now, sometimes the permits that you receive are implicit permits. It means that you don't actually receive a paper from the officer that tells you, oh, you are permitted to stay in Canada for such and such duration. So what they will do is that you show up at the port of entry, and at the port of entry, the officer will look at your documents, and based on that will allow you to enter Canada and stay in Canada. Now, they don't actually give you a paper, but this is an implicit permit that will allow you to remain in Canada. Sometimes they stamp your passport and mention an expiry date. That expiry date is the expiry date of your implicit permit, which says that you only are permitted to remain in Canada, you're only allowed to remain in Canada up to this specific date. But if they don't put a date, then it means that you can remain in Canada for up to 6 months. And this is under the authority of paragraph 2 of section 183 of the regulations, which allows you to remain in Canada for up to 6 months. So that's implicit permit. But most of the time, not most of the time, but many times you receive an explicit permit. It means that you receive an actual document. For example, if you are traveling to Canada to work in Canada, at the port of entry, assuming that you're already approved for a work permit, or at the port of entry, the officer decides that yes, you qualify for a work permit, they issue you a piece of paper that is a work permit. And on that work permit, it clearly says for how long you may stay in Canada. Or if you're going to study in Canada at the port of entry, assuming that you meet all the requirements, you've already been approved for a study permit, you will receive a study permit at the port of entry. Or if you are at the port of entry and the officer decides to limit your stay in Canada under 6 months, extremely, for example, they say you have to leave Canada in 2 weeks, or they want to extend your stay in Canada beyond 6 months. For example, they want to let you stay in Canada for 2 years. In those situations, they issue you a visitor record. So visitor record means you're a visitor, but they clearly show you the date that you need to leave Canada. And the last one is a temporary resident permit for people who are inadmissible to Canada. But despite their inadmissibility, the officer at the port of entry allows them to enter and remain in Canada for certain duration. So these are permits. These are pieces of paper that explicitly allow you to remain in Canada. But if you look at the bottom of those permits, regardless of the kind of permit, it says not valid for re-entry. It means you cannot use a permit for traveling back to Canada, because permit is for remaining in Canada, not for entering. For entering, you need that visa sticker. For remaining in Canada, you need a permit. So these are two different things. So what should you do if you already hold a valid work permit or study permit or visitor record or a temporary resident permit? You could only travel, leave Canada and come back if you have a valid visa sticker. Now, in terms of TRP, it's different, because TRP usually, even if you have, they will never issue you a visa sticker anyways. But with the other ones, you will have a visa sticker, and if that visa sticker is valid, then you can leave Canada and come back. If you don't have that, then you need to apply for a new TRV. But when you're applying for the TRV, you could say, oh, by the way, I have a valid visitor record, I have a valid work permit, I have a valid study permit. And the officer will consider those in their decision making process. So it's important for you to to consider basically that permits are different from visa. So if you're already, for example, inside Canada, and while you are inside Canada, you extend your stay in Canada, it doesn't mean you are also extending your visa. You're just extending your permit. Also, keep that in mind that if you have a permit inside Canada, it doesn't necessarily mean you have a status in Canada. An example would be refugee claimants. When they claim refugee status in Canada, then they will receive work permits or study permits inside Canada, but they are not necessarily have a status in Canada. They do not have a status in Canada. Okay, so that was something I wanted to share with you. I have written an article about this. I will also write a similar article that explain about extending your stay in Canada and applying for a TRV. But for now, you can click this link. I have already posted the link below my video as well, and you can read that. Um, so let me just couple of more questions here. So Nexus Canada says, "Hello, Al. Hi, Andy. How are you? Good to see you here." So, Mr. Fields, do you have time today for booking? I don't think I will be able to accommodate you today. As you know, today is Sunday. I know that I ruin my Sunday mornings by doing these live sessions, but I really love it. But after that, then I have to take care of my family. But please send me an email and I will tell you what would be the earliest time that we can have a session. Okay, so thank you very much for attending this session, everybody. It was a bless to meet you again. Please come back every Sunday. I'll do my best 10 a.m. Toronto time to run a live session. And also during the week, every now and again, I will publish some videos about different aspects of immigration to Canada. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Al Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant with almost 11 years of work experience as an independent immigration consultant. I am the author of 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada. You can purchase this book by visiting Amazon websites. It's available in electronic format and also in this paperback format. It has been identified as the bestseller book by Amazon.ca under the immigration law. I'm recently an adjunct professor at Queen's University Law Department. I teach immigration consulting at Ashton College, and I've had clients from almost 55 countries. I can't believe that I'm saying that, but this is true, and it's been a bless to be here. When start work at work permit application. So whenever they issue a work permit, it means that you're allowed to work, unless they put a start. They never mention a start date because the time that they issue the work permit, it means that it's the time that you can work. Okay. Unless they clearly say, "Oh, this is your work permit, but you cannot." And by the way, keep that in mind because I've seen scammers that they take your money and then send you work permits. This is not true. The work permit will be issued at the port of entry. So if you apply for a work permit in Canada from outside Canada, you will never ever receive a work permit from immigration authorities. What you will receive is a letter that says your work permit is approved. Then you travel to Canada. At the port of entry, an officer will scan that paper and they will issue your work permit. So they will never ever. I said, Master, well, unfortunately, not today. Today is a Sunday and I want to be with my family. But please send me an email and I will tell you when is the earliest we can have a session. Thank you. So, and also, so be careful. If somebody approaches you and they say that we will give you work permits, it's not possible. IRCC never mails a work permit outside Canada. If you're inside Canada and you qualify to apply from inside Canada, yes, they will send you the work permit to your address inside Canada, but outside Canada, they will never ever do that. Okay, thank you very much again, and see you next week. And please subscribe to our channel, enable notifications, and I have lots of videos. Also, before I go, I need to thank all our subscribers. We actually reached 7,000 subscribers yesterday. I'm so grateful to all of you who have subscribed to our channel. Please encourage your friends to join as well. See you next week.